On a day-to-day, business can feel like it's going on as normal, but underneath the surface, there are a lot of issues for major companies operating in Hong Kong. The first is an obvious one, which is anxiety among staff. Some of the multinationals have at least 2,000 employees. They have employees that are from Hong Kong, employees from mainland China. They have people who are very divided about the politics in Hong Kong, and you can feel a lot of the anxiety around the office coffee maker, in decisions that people are making, and actual fights breaking out in the office. So that's a real big problem. Another area with staff is about social media. So companies are very, very worried about how China is perceiving them, and they are worried that if their staff are seen as being supporters of the protests, then that could have implications for their own company brand. How do you control that? Especially if you're from a Western company that believes in freedom of expression. So this has become a very difficult management issue for people. Another area that's very difficult for companies to manage and cope with in Hong Kong is the daily phone calls from company headquarters all over the United States. If you watch the protests on television, it looks like violence is breaking out in all quarters of Hong Kong at all hours of the day. Obviously, protests by nature are in certain areas, not everywhere, but there's a lot of pressure from corporate headquarters to figure out what to do, to come up with backup plans, to figure out whether to hire staff or keep staff in Hong Kong. So that's been a lot of work for especially the executives based there. Basically through a lot of planning. Companies are getting together on a daily basis in their executives' teams to figure out how to handle these issues. So with some of the backup plans, people may be taking out of the drawer plans they had in case of a typhoon or any other major issue and then rewriting them to figure out a risk. They're also looking at other operation centers around Asia to try to figure out whether they could replicate Hong Kong somewhere else. And that's actually quite difficult to do. So while people will say, well, Singapore is a natural alternative, it is an expatriate hub, there is a similar style of law, there is English widely spoken, you don't have nearly the market liquidity, the geographical match in terms of being on the doorstep of China that you have in Hong Kong. Where else can you spread your risk? So that's an area that people are looking at closely. People recognize that there are political issues in Hong Kong, but in terms of freedom of the internet, in terms of personal safety, there really aren't that many screaming names that come out around Asia. So that's a problem. There are a lot of signs coming up this year. One area that people are watching very closely is to see whether Carrie Lam, the chief executive, will stay in her role. It's unlikely that she will for the next 2.5 years that she's in that position. Who would replace her? And also, would that be a very heavy supporter of Beijing, or will it be a person that really has the support of the people of Hong Kong? That political aspect is very important. Also, what types of court decisions or judiciary decisions will be made? The rule of law and the independence of the judiciary is really the top thing that people feel and look at to be comfortable in Hong Kong. So if there's any rattling of that, that could be a serious issue. There's also security laws, national security laws that could be put into effect this year in Hong Kong. And if those are actually brought out, that will cause a lot of instability amongst Hong Kong people. It could rattle the United States. It could be a very serious issue. And then last but not least is violence. Will there be more violence? Will it be violence that can be held back? Will it start to disrupt work patterns as well again? And also we have the US reaction to all of this, the US-China trade war, whether a deal can make things more comfortable in Hong Kong. There's a lot going on to watch, and there'll be a lot of things that cross people's radar screen in 2020.